Ministers, as tradition will demand, we will now give you the opportunity to ask questions, clarity, and for better understanding of what they would have said here. And again, I join my colleagues in thanking our people at home listening to this broadcast. We appreciate that. Now we are at question time. We'll start with number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9. One last more? None. Thank you very much. We have 9 hands. Let's start with number 1.
Thank you so much. Francis Loramachate from Progressive Independent News Agency. Minister Ndabeni-Abrahams mentioned that one channel will be cleared to allow the broadcast of Easter message. So I want to understand how are these churches going to share that particular channel? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Number 2.
It's Natemba from Jacaranda FM News. Minister Ndabeni, my question is to you as well. Regarding the 2 channels about the virtual learning and the virtual classrooms for the tiny people, will that be available on DSTV or will it be available for those who don't have access to that?
Number 3.
Also to Minister Ndabeni-Abrahams, my name is Peter de Tooy, I'm from News 24. You just spoke of the media as essential services. What is the specific arrangements around that in regards to movement of media, who is included in this as part of the media as essential services, and what identification the media would need to move around the country in order, like you said, to document events around the country? Thank you.
Number 4.
Antoinette Slabbert from Media 24. Also for Minister Ndabeni-Abrahams, following up on my colleague Peter's question, with regards to the media, will there also be provision for production staff? It's not only journalists who have to gather the news, but also the staff that assist in disseminating the news. The sound engineers, the graphic artists, even the distribution staff in the case of print. Can you please just put our minds at ease about those staff, because without them there's no sense in gathering the news if we cannot disseminate it.
Hi, this is
5. Next. Yeah.
Hi, this is Nombelo Chalambera from News 24. This is to Minister Abrahams. I wanted to find out, in terms of the virtual learning, will there be provisions made to those who don't have any access to sort of any TV? What provisions for kids that don't have access? And when will you start rolling out these virtual classrooms?
6.
Vickers Burger from Media 24 as well. It's also relevant to or connected to some of the questions. I'm just following up on that as well. Is to add on with what my colleague said about the media and the movement of the media. Those that distribute news, like newspapers, publications, titles, and so forth, will they be allowed to move around? What is the restrictions or whatever with regards to them?
Next.
Good day, my name is Arissa and I'm also here from Media 24. My question is for Minister Mthethwa. On a practical level, how will artists be able to qualify for the funds that have been made available, and how will they be able to apply for these funds? Thank you.
Next.
Sipho Stirman, Sipho Stirman from SABC TV News. This goes to Minister of Mineral Resources. Are you saying that mines that are supplying coal to Eskom will be in operation but in a reduced capacity? Now, will this affect electricity supply in the country? Will we experience load shedding during this 21-day lockdown period? And also to Minister Stella Ndabeni, this...
Just a minute. Can we get a better mic?
Okay.
Because we can't hear you clearly.
All right. Sipho Stilman from SABC TV News. I'll just repeat that question to the Minister of Mineral Resources. You're saying that mines that are supplying coal to ESCOM will still operate, but on a reduced capacity. Will this then affect general power supply to the country? And should South Africans expect load shedding during this 21-day lockdown period? And to Minister Stella Ndabeni, this proposed channel that will be available for educational purposes, when is that going to come on board exactly? And I think one of the colleagues did ask, is that going to be available on both free-to-air, or is it only for DSTV purposes? Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. You can answer from where you are seated. Who's the first taker? Just before Minister Ndabeni answers, colleagues from Cape Town, we know that there are 4 questions from that side. When we are done with this, we will come to you. Thank you very much. Minister.
Thank you, Minister Mthembu. Colleagues, on the question of the churches that we spoke about, it's a program, as I said, both by SABC and under DSTV. I'm not sure which channel. I think they said Mindset from DSTV. And it is going to be done in collaboration with the faith-based organization, and therefore the broadcasters will engage with the relevant bodies under the faith-based organizations. I've already spoken to Minister Mthethwa because he's a key stakeholder on that in terms of engaging also CRL and all those that are affected. Unfortunately, on the scheduling, I can't detail that. It is those that are involved, but all we would like to see is that normally you would see when they go to F&B and they've called all the churches together, and all of them, they get to share the stage, and our people can therefore be able to have the services that they are looking for. So it's both SABC, which is a public broadcaster, and of course the DSTV channel that I spoke about. On the broadcasting and virtual channels that we spoke about on education, again, those are available from the 2 broadcasters that I spoke about. SABC has its own dedicated channel, and DSTV has done so. And yes, the services are available to all those that will have access to TV, and some that will have access to their devices. As part of the digital migration program in the department, we've decided again to make sure that we fast-track the process of introducing the IDTV or providing the IDTV sets to the households which are beneficiaries of the DTT program, but who have matriculants and grade 9 students in their houses. That will be the priority. So we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone to say we're fast-tracking the progress on digital migration while still providing education through the platform that we have from SABC and others. On media being the essential services, how are people going to know that these are the people that are offering the essential services? Of course, the form of identification that is expected is your ID, and of course your CEO would have written a letter that you are part of those members. And of course, as I said, you all have your cards and whatever that belongs to your organization, and that will be verified, and therefore you'll be able to be given access. What about the support structure? In the print media, we have people who produce content, who collect content, who distribute content, and that has been taken into consideration because there is no need for us to say people must go gather news, and therefore after they've collected all those, the information cannot be disseminated. We're making these efforts because we understand that the people of South Africa must have access to information at all times. Those that believe in the traditional media, let them have access to the print media, let them have access to radio, TV, and any other platform that we utilize. Therefore, your companies are the ones that will be then providing that information to say these are our suppliers. And as I said, the letterheads and everything that will be done will be verified with the relevant authorities. We are also cautious of the scammers that would want to utilize this opportunity to want to claim that we're working for SABC or we're working for this department or from the licenses of the telcos to say we're coming to check your infrastructure as they want to do their things. So we'll be working hand in hand with the police in order to protect not only the field workers but the consumers themselves. Virtual learning, it was the same question. Movement, I've really responded to both identification and the movement of those that are offering the services. I will therefore hand over to my colleagues. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Nyambas.
Thank you very much, Minister Mthembu, and thanks for the question. We're still working the details of the criteria. But amongst others, we're looking at people who would be having a national and international footprint at a national level. We would leave mostly the up and coming for provinces to follow up. So we will be putting together a team of people comprising of legends and younger creatives to be the ones who are going to be presiding over the judgments on the criteria who should be on or not. Thank you so much.
Baba, Mr. Mantash.
The one question was about mines supplying Eskom with coal. What if they don't meet the demand? Will there be load shedding? I hope I heard you. Yes. You will notice that our approach is focusing on people rather than business. It is not about business deals and requirements. Supplying Eskom with coal is a requirement. We are appreciating the fact that with the lockdown, the demand will be very low. Therefore, it is unlikely that we're going to be having load shedding because quite a number of industrial consumers will not be producing. And therefore, electricity is going to be available more abundantly than normal. And therefore, we don't have a fear of load shedding. But we require Eskom not to be in a situation where they cannot supply electricity to society. So, if you look at that, you can link it to the one on energy, which talks about production, distribution of petroleum products. We're not expecting you to go to a pump station and not get petroleum. The opposite will happen, is that the demand for petroleum products is going to be low, and therefore it will be available. In the sector, they are even considering looking at hours of opening pump station. We said let's analyze that depending on the demand. So with Eskom, it will be the same.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Sorry. Cape Town. You know, we're using an auditorium that did not have this type of facility. Cape Town, number 1.
Good afternoon. It's Marianne Merton from the Daily Maverick. A question for Minister Mantashe, please. You indicated that mines will operate at significantly reduced levels. What provisions or what agreement has been reached with regards to mine workers? Will they be under lockdown in the mining hostels? Will they be allowed to go back home, wherever that may be? And have special transport arrangements been made, for example, for the mine workers that come to South Africa from our neighboring countries, like Lesotho, for example? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cape Town. Number 2.
Tianya Niber for Marula Media, and I'm covered by a question from my colleague. I had the same one.
Thank you very much. That's revolutionary. Number 3.
Jan de Lange from Report Newspaper, Minister. Question for Mr. Mkhunu. I'm not sure if I heard him correct. He made reference, I think, to the third leg of the wage increase. Does public service workers are in a serious dispute about the third leg of the public service wage agreement. And I think there's probably a strong possibility that they may embark on industrial action even during the lockdown. Will public service be allowed to exercise their right to strike? Can you give us an update on what the situation with that dispute about the non-implementation? You gave notice that you won't implement the third leg of the wage agreement starting at the end of April. What is happening about that? Thank you.
The last one, Cape Town.
From Cape Town. That's all from Cape Town for now. Thank you.
Oh, we are done in Cape Town. Let's answer these questions. We'll come to you. Colleagues, who do we start? Minister Mantashe?
I have one. In our consultation yesterday, we talked to the industry and we talked to all the unions in the industry. And our understanding was that we are going to be managing the situation together. It is not about you see, there's a temptation of going to the extremes where companies will want to say we agree with lockdown but allow us to operate normally. The other extreme is that there is 21 days lockdown. It's a paid holiday. And we say no, both those extremes are not correct. The correct approach is we allow essential services to protect the future of those industries and protect the future jobs of those workers. Whether is there any agreement for mine workers, we leave that to employers and unions. But one of the intentions of a lockdown is to reduce and minimize movement. So it would be inadvisable to allow buses and buses of mine workers to go to the villages and come back, because you run a risk of actually transporting the virus from areas where there is heavy concentration to areas where there are still few incidents. And therefore, our advice to the industry was that, listen, there must be no movement of massive migration of workers from the mines to the villages. Better, they should be accommodated in the mines, provided with food, provided with medical care, provided with all the necessities in those areas. And if necessary, allow them to work different shifts alternatively in the reduced production.
Thank you very much, Minister. Next
But
one.
anyway, the majority of mine workers today don't stay in hostels. Quite a number are part of the communities around those mines.
Thank you, Minister Mkhunu. It's on.
Oh, it's on.
Yes.
Thank you. No, thanks for your question. For now, I think all of us in the Republic are focused, and strictly so, focused on fighting coronavirus. I think this is another effort here, over and above a very strong call by our president that we focus almost exclusively on fighting coronavirus. What I'm able to say is that organized labor share the concern about coronavirus and are contributing in the fight. I haven't heard any union or anyone making a statement to the contrary with regard to coronavirus. And we appreciate that we're all united, including organized labor, on this matter. And we don't want that to be confused with any other thing. However, on the question which is separate that you are talking about, you're talking about the threat and whether Labour will be able to exercise their rights. I think we need to park that and not dwell on any speculation and deal with the matter when we cross that particular bridge. Thank you very much.
Minister Ndabeni Abrams.
Thank you, Minister Mthembu. A question came through Minister Mthethwa. Why must we include print media services in the essential services? Who will they be delivering to as people will be quarantined? That's the question I got. Whoever that asked the question, you want to say, the fact that people are quarantined, it doesn't mean that they must be deprived of information. And the fact that the distributors of the papers will be distributing, it doesn't mean that they hand over the papers to the people. There are post boxes that are being used where people insert these papers, and others, they drop them at the shops, and people know how to deal with those. So we are careful and cautious of all the dangers that can be posed by this that we're talking about. But at the end of the day, we remain resolute that our people must have access to information, and we'll adhere with all the measures that must protect the people, and will ensure that the industry itself adheres to them. Thank you so much.
Nyambo, say anything? Thank you. By the way, just to add on the categories that will be exempted. Of course, our colleagues are coming now around 4 or 5 to talk about categories that we exempted. But we know for a fact that you can't not exempt people from accessing information, as the minister has said, and people who are the conduit of information to the masses is the media. So as to what will be the rules and regulations that will apply to those that are exempted, let's allow the colleagues that are coming to brief us at 4 o'clock. They've been working on those regulations and rules. Those rules will apply to all those that will be exempted. Now, having said that, can we then take some more questions, if there are any? Let's start at the back. Then the lady at the back. Then the lady with the yellow shirt. The lady here. Any other? Oh, done. So we've got 4. We have 4. Oh, 5. Thank you. Let's get started. Number 1.
Afternoon. My name is Aserin Lovu. I'm from Capital Live. I just want to quickly ask a question to Minister Mthethwa. He mentioned something about 25 productions that have been postponed and possibly cancelled, and said something like they will be paid, especially those that are booked already, including artists. I want to quickly check, what about the community media as well that has been booked for certain broadcasts that are cancelled or postponed? Are they also going to be paid? And generally, in all departments, maybe you can still answer for them, what about these companies like the catering companies that were also booked for all those events that are cancelled? Are they also going to be paid? Thank you.
Number 2. Yes. Usuku manje sikubone sisi. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Right. Hloni Mtimkulu from ENCA. This is to Minister Nathi Mthethwa. You mentioned a little bit about the meeting about the athletes that were stuck overseas. Just from a sports perspective, I know this is more about arts and culture, and we're happy to do a one-on-one afterwards if possible. Can you please just specify what the plans are for those artists that aren't able to make it back at the moment, for the sports people that aren't able to make it back at the moment?
Next.
My name is Mbali Tetani from Newsroom Africa. My first question goes to Minister Mkhunu. I just want to find out, when it comes to essential services, how are the essential services staff going to be protected? Will government be giving any support to their families? And my second question goes to Minister Mthethwa. You've been seen to be in contact with the Netball SA CEO. She's tested positive for the coronavirus. Will you also be getting tested?
Next. We have said, I got now, Nangale. Thank you.
Hi, Arisa again from Media 24. My question is for Mr. Mkhunu. You mentioned that essential services who need to be called out will still be working. Can you please give details on which essential services this will be? For example, if a pipe bursts and the whole community is without water, will there be someone to come and fix these pipes? Thank you.
Sipho Stilman from SABC again. It's more of a request than a question. I was asked for SABC purposes if the minister can consider just giving summaries of the speeches here for other language groups or for the other channels that we have, if it's possible at all and if time permits. Thank you.
Okay. Before the minister's answer, colleagues and fellow South Africans, all of us did not plan for this. We found ourselves in this pandemic. So we might need to work together and even, as the president normally says, fix the plane as it flies. That's what we'll have to do as it relates to this matter. Yes, we will give whatever responses that we will, but we also need you, colleagues. We need you to also assist us, people of our country. We are together in this. So government alone will not come with solutions. Let's be together in finding solutions to this pandemic that has just gripped our country. With that said, I then hand over to Nyambos.
Thank you, Minister Tembo Kawatel. No, the people who are going to be prioritized are those whose concerts have been cancelled, which were to be funded by the department, and those who applied to the department. It's specific to that. With regards to community media, my colleague, Minister Ndabeni Abrams, is going to respond to that. The issue of the athletes stuck across the world is a difficult one because mainly it would be in those countries in Europe which are been identified by the World Health Organization as high risk countries, as it were. And as you know, that when the president made an announcement for the lockdown, those countries were banned to South Africa. Because if you follow the history of the infections, it has been by and large by people who are coming from different countries, as it were. So that's the situation now, because the call was not only coming from Europe, it was a lot of countries across the board. Resource-wise, it was going to be impossible for the government to ensure that people, one person in one country, in more than 100 countries, to repatriate or evacuate them to South Africa. It's not the CEO of netball, it's the president of netball. She was in a meeting where we were. The team came from NICD to check. No, there was no contact with her from my side. So I'm fine. I forgot to ask the question. I'm okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Ndabeni Abrams.
Thank you, Minister Mthembu. Just to respond to the first question that Minister Mthethwa referred to me. As the department, we have decided through Centec that in order to minimize the negative impact to the community media, or those that have had their bookings cancelled, we're going to extend grace to say we're not going to charge them for the signal distribution. So as much as they would have lost money in the events that were booked for, but still we are exempting them from payment until COVID-19 is over. Actually, for a period of 90 days, they will not be paying Centec. So all community broadcasters have to broadcast and provide information to all people without fear that they will be switched off, and because they've lost some money, that has been taken care of by the same government. There was a question again on essential services. Minister Mthembu did say probably let's allow the Ministers of Justice and Crime Prevention Cluster to come and detail more, but to be specific to those that have been identified as essential services, I did say the CEOs will take responsibility, which therefore means that the respective ministers, together with the CEOs of their industries, will therefore have engagements and the information will be shared. Unfortunately, for now, it is the details that we do not have, as we entirely rely on that will be announced this afternoon, and the collaboration between the CEOs or owners of the companies or employers with government. Then that information will be made public. I did warn again that there will be others that would want to exploit this opportunity. So it is also in your interest to make sure that people don't come and claim to be yourselves in order for them to access the areas they're not supposed to access. Therefore, the information will be directly given to yourselves as the people that will be involved in the essential services. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. Minister Mkhunu.
Thank you very much. Let me just say, after the declaration by the President, we have sought to look for a fitting definition of what is essential. And in our view, having tried our best to interpret this as correctly as possible, is those services that do not qualify to be restricted under the orders as directed by the President because of their nature and their link in supporting life and supporting the very fight that we're undertaking. Now, it's going to be extremely difficult for me to give you, because rather point you to the website that I hope they've already publicized them. I have them here. There are 5 pages, because we tried to be as detailed as possible, working with all other departments. But just to give you a sense, they have to do with water and sanitation, regarded as very, very, very essential. Have to do with health services, delivery of health services, even directly in relation to the fight. Defense in terms of their support in assisting where they need to assist in enforcing. Treasury in terms of ensuring that amid all these public servants themselves do get paid and resolve problems wherever there are problems in relation to payments. minerals and energy, Minister Mantashe was talking about them here, transport. So it's quite a range of issues across public service that would qualify to be unrestricted in the middle of restrictions that have been called upon generally on all of those. I'm trying to do my best to respond to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Mantashe? Oh, no question. Don't want to add anything. Good. Colleagues, that then brings us to the end of this interaction. As we had announced yesterday and earlier today, we'll have another engagement with the Ministers of Justice, Defense, COGTA, Police, Transport, and of course, Intelligence, SSA, and again we'll bring again the Minister of DTI and Competition, Minister Patel. So we'll have those ministers who will come to again speak to us. How do we enforce the lockdown? That will be their brief as they come to speak to us this afternoon. We have been requested, I know that we had said to the media and the people of our country that we will take that media briefing at 4 o'clock. We are then requesting your indulgence that we take it at 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, because there are quite many areas that need to be finalized for us to do justice to what we will say to the nation this afternoon. So we are not saying tomorrow at 5. We are saying today, just a delay of an hour from what we had said initially. With that said, to my colleagues, Minister Nyambos, Minister Ndabeni Abrams, Minister Mchunu, Minister Mantashe, thank you very much. This media briefing is adjourned. Thank you. Enkos.
All right, so that's where we're going to leave that briefing coordinated by Minister Jackson Mthembu, Minister in the Presidency. Present there were Ministers Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, Senzo Mchunu, Gwede Mantashe and Natim Mthethwa. And they've been giving details on how various departments will be responding to the national lockdown. Communications Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams said, amongst other issues, that the SABC will be setting up a learning channel for school children during the COVID-19 SA lockdown. Parents are encouraged to get their kids, actually, she says, to dress up in school uniform perhaps and sit in front of the TV and be embracing this education. She also says that bandwidth will be increased. She says that the South African Post Office has been tasked with working closely with the Social Development Department. She also says South Africa is a very religious country, and so a dedicated channel to be broadcasting Easter services will be deployed. She says that the media is considered an essential service and journalists will need a press card and their IDs and a letter from a CEO to prove that they are legitimate news gatherers and production staff. And in fact, CEOs generally will be working with ministers to make sure that that list of essential services is bedded down. Meanwhile, Minister Mthethwa says that live streaming will be made available for artists such as comedians and musicians. He says that this is to ensure that artists will be able to continue to do their work. He says
says that the limiting of large groups was a fatal blow for the department where he is, arts and culture and sports. He says that the sports departments in particular will be hardest hit by these necessary measures. Minister of Public Service Senzo Mchunu says that we want to take this opportunity to public servants, thank them that we are aware of their anxiety in this regard, and we've made sure that we work with unions and will continue to do so. So those are the messages of some of the ministers, and this will continue throughout the next couple of days. The lockdown, of course, to kick in tomorrow night at midnight, and we believe there'll be another briefing a little bit later today. Right, let's take a quick break, and when we be back, we'll continue with SA Today.